Hello! Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It's March the 23rd of 2022. That's right. It's that day we've all been waiting for. The day ordained by the prophets on which we would sit down and talk about this week's manga.
Oh, as Nostradamus foretold.
Yeah, I'm sure you could probably interpret one of the fucking things he said as...
Oh, 100%. 100%. That
But it'd be something, really like weirdly poetic and obscure, like, and two shall sit to discuss the events. And it's like, oh, that could be that's obviously like, the news or the podcast.
Yeah.
Which podcast? That podcast.
Did he just start whiffing like on his later predictions? Because I haven't heard anyone talk about Nostradamus since like 9/11. That was like the last big thing. Like Nostradamus predicted this or whatever. Or is it just that now that we're in the age of the internet, no one's like, you could just go read crazy conspiracy theories wherever you want if you want to. So there's no real need for Nostradamus anymore.
That's an interesting point. Like, so Nostradamus too suffered from the age of content availability, where there's too much. So even all the people who believe in that stuff, like, oh, there's so many places that you can go in order to get your bullshit. You can get it from QAnon. You can get it from Flat Earth, which is the same as QAnon now, apparently, which is very disturbing. You could get it from people who think the moon landings were fake. You get it from people who think that the moon landings are impossible because the moon is just like a spotlight. That's the crazy one.
Nostradamus needs a TikTok account, is what you're saying.
That's right. We got to
current with the kids.
Can we call him up? Help him.
What's going on? There's a TikTok account I found recently that's like Sesame Street cards that I guess are just close enough to tarot cards that someone uses them as tarot cards. And it's all shit like block, orange, star. And the person's like, the block symbolizes that your life is in an incomplete state at this point. You need to build more on top of it. The orange means that you are bright and blossoming and moving into it. I was like, you know what? The internet is a gift sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it takes all sorts, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nick, let's talk about manga.
We do have manga to talk about today. We, for once, don't have a recommendation that we're talking about this week because we're working on a much longer one. So wait for us on that.
It's going to take a while.
It will. So instead, we're going to talk about some other long-running shonen series. Isn't that nice? My Hero Academia to start with. Chapter number 348, Unrequited. Literally, like, if you go to the front page of...
Is it unrequited or unrequited?
I always thought it was unrequited. I've heard it both ways, however. I think it's unrequited.
I'm going to go to Google Pronounce. We're just going to... You won't be able to hear it, so I'm just going to lie and tell you whatever I said was just right.
Unrequited.
Yeah.
Unrequited. That's what it said.
Oh. Maybe it is possible to pronounce it both ways, or maybe I'm wrong. I have been known to, in the many, many hours that I talk on this show, to pronounce certain things wrong.
To be fair, I'm oftentimes... I hear people say things wrong enough that I'm like, I guess that must be like the same way niche. Like I've heard people call it niche all the time. I'm like, isn't it niche? And I guess it's just to the point where it's like, enough people maybe said it was niche or whatever that now niche is just a perfectly valid pronunciation or whatever.
Yeah, which is, that's the way language works, though.
Yeah.
So
literally does not mean literally anymore, and that's fine. It's just how language evolves.
It literally doesn't, and it doesn't matter what form of music it is now.
You know what?
All right.
Alanis Morissette was right now. Everything she said was ironic and
no,
ironic
that's
way.
still wrong. Ironically, that's still not ironic.
We're not giving that to her.
No, hold on to that one.
Score 1 for Dave Coulier.
Oh yeah, I guess he did do it. Yeah. Anyway, so last time on My Hero Academia, Toga got all blushy around Deku and was like, "Will you be my boyfriend?" And literally, like the front page thing on Viz this week was, "Oh my God, Toga declared her love for Izuku. How is he going to handle it?" The first page tells us, like a dork. I mean, it's like the narration specifically calls out Deku. Gives her this big thing about like, oh man, Izuku Midoriya, he's the ninth wielder of One for All. He has all this incredible power. He's potentially the strongest hero ever now. But even though he had encountered Hibiko Toga a number of times, he had never actually realized the way she felt about him, and because for all of his triumphs, he was still just a damned nerd.
It was
putting him on blast.
It's pretty funny. It is a very amusing joke where it's just like, for everything that's awesome about this kid, he is fucking dense.
I mean, have you seen him and Uraraka, the girl that he hangs out all the time? Yeah. Like, of course he didn't figure it out with Toga. Like, come on.
Come on.
And Toga, gives what at first seems like a very straightforward and earnest love confession, saying, "Oh, the first time I ever saw you, you looked so cool when you were covered in blood. And you looked like my first crush. I want to be you. Let me suck your blood." It goes off the deep end pretty quickly because, Toga is Toga. Yeah. Deku's still caught up on that first point, though, about the boyfriend thing, because he's like, "What, you mean like you want to go to like the amusement park for a date and hold hands with and stuff?" And Toga's like, no, I've got a different definition of boyfriend. Did you not hear? I want to suck your blood. I want to like cut you open and live inside you and be happy. I mean, I guess like we could like go ride the Ferris wheel or something, but I'll kill you when we're at the top.
Yeah, I'm going to disembowel you at the top. Yeah, and wear your skin to the bottom because, come on, what a way.
Which for me is like getting to second base.
Yeah.
And then they are on the beach, of course, and there's all this chaos swirling around them. And so as the fight is happening around them, Toga says, "Tell me, hero, what do you want to do with me?" And she like steps backwards into the waves and disappears. And oh shit, they can't see her. And Deku's spider danger sense doesn't work on her. So what's going to happen? She get attacked from any angle, while presumably she's going because the water is. Deku gives a very honest answer, because of course he does, about in response to what Toga just asked him, which is, I mean, I've always wanted to be strong like All Might, so I do actually understand how you feel wanting to be another person. Like trying to be like someone else could be very fulfilling. But I can't imagine wanting to share the same heart and mind as All Might, and I would never want to hurt someone that I love. And Toga smiles sadly. And she just thinks of all the different people who have, screamed at her for not being normal, including Uraraka very recently. And so she's like, you're just like Ochako, and you're just like my mom and dad. Well, guess I'll kill you. She seems resigned to the fact that they are going to be eternally on separate sides of the conflict between heroes and villains. She attacks from out of the water, and tubes are going everywhere. Uraraka tries to intercept her, and I think grabs onto her, but it's kind of hard to tell because they're very small in this panel when they clash. And Uraraka's like, "Hey, I've been thinking about you since, I said those mean things about you before." And Toga's like, "Oh, really? I haven't been thinking about you. I thought, maybe I had a shot with Izuku, but nope. I'm over that now. The world's rejected me, so I reject the world." And the font in her text has changed, so she's really unhinged now. That's how you can tell. That's how you can tell. And she, I guess, breaks free from Uraraka, then goes back towards her. Like I said, I don't know exactly what happens in this sequence because there's not a lot of like establishing frames for actions that get taken. It's a bit irksome. But as Toga is bemoaning the fact that she's been rejected by her crushes and stuff, so you fucking drop kicks her, which is pretty great. And it's just as Toga's going to reveal that, oh, hey, Uraraka's going to crush on Deku, which was to be the worst thing that could possibly happen in this moment. And Uraraka, however, got nicked by one of the knives, so she warns everyone, hey, she might have some of my blood again. And Tsuyu's just like, hey, Deku, you get going. Chatting about romance here is the last thing you need to be doing. I think there's worse ways to waste his time right now. Make you die. Yeah. That'd be a worse way to waste his time. That'd be bad. Yeah, but so you and Uraraka are just like, yeah, we'll take care of this. We will do as we planned and handle Himiko Toga. You have to go and fight Shigaraki because you're the only one who can actually take him out. So go fly off somewhere. And Uraraka turns over her shoulder to look at him and says, hey, good luck. And Deku starts to rush off while Toga rather starts to get very kind of contorted as she's standing up, and her tendril stabby tube things, I'm not even sure exactly what to refer to those as now. She just says, it's so hard to live being me, even though I'm full of all this love. Oh, Toga, you're the most interesting villain left. Like, because Shigaraki's got like all for one in him, and so that means that he's partially the really boring guy. And who else is there? Dabi. Yeah, but we've figured out Dabi at this point. So
Spinner can be interesting. He's got like a low key interesting story. I feel like at some point they're gonna have to be kind of on the nose with him, right?
I hope so. Yes.
Yeah. This is fun.
So yeah.
This was a fun chapter. The one I guess like thought I really had during the chapter is like, oh, she's got Toga has Uraraka's blood, and I was like, man, I really hope she doesn't turn into Uraraka and show off how fucking badass Uraraka's powers can be, like. And then, I don't know, like, I hope that if she does, Uraraka does something even more badass or something in return. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm really hoping the villain using her powers doesn't just go to show, like, this is what Uraraka's potential is. Because, as a lot of people point out, like, her powers are crazy strong. Like, she should be doing very incredibly crazy things, so.
Yeah, it's kind of upsetting that, like, the coolest stuff that we've ever actually seen Uraraka do was in, like, the very early days of the series. Where, you know, like her fight with Bakugo. Then there was the thing where they did like the tag match test thing, and so she used her powers on a column so she could swing it like a baseball bat and stuff. We haven't seen a whole lot of her really do much since then.
I think she is going to have a very cool thing here. I guess I'm not even hoping. I guess I should say this. I'm very excited to see Uraraka's powers go to a full showcase here. I sincerely hope the coolest display is from her herself and not Toga just mimicking her powers.
Right. I am wondering if this is actually the end of the confrontation between Toga and Deku, because it seems a little bit abrupt to do it like this, but I guess if it is purely a device to build up tension while Deku has to rush and go to the scene to fight Shigaraki so that we can, you know, cut around to all the other stuff first, I guess that works.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced that that's just it, but we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. All right, Nick, let's move on over to Undead Unluck number 103, Negator versus Regulator. So Seal has showed up, blah, 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 Kiss from a Rose, etc. to seal Undead. So the fight is on, and Andy opens by kind of talking like, yeah, you know, I've only ever lost to somebody, a chick named Gina, which is a way to describe her. Andy has a very casual way of talking. It's not super condescending, I guess, but a little bit. And he says, like, yeah, that's kind of how you have to defeat me. So I just want to note, though, there's not a rule in this world that can't be broken. So let me give you a first-hand lesson, Seal, my boy. The way he phrases that is very amusing to me.
He seems suddenly much, much older, doesn't he? Listen here, Sonny!
I mean, to be fair, Seal seems to be like an almost immediately born concept that has only lived in this earth in a measure of minutes, basically, and Andy has lived for centuries,
yeah,
at least, probably decades.
Well, depends on how you count it. Depends on how you count it, because he could have lived for entire, timelines.
Yeah.
So.
But Seal is just like, it doesn't matter. Go ahead and struggle. Your ability, I shall seal and offer to God, everything like that. So Andy is like, cool. If that's it, then it's about time that I die trying to figure out. He just cuts his body into pieces and just shoots them like bullets. And
he's like Voltron.
Yeah, but in reverse. He gets stronger the more of himself he shoots away. So we see those attacks go in. They're not super effective, and it also leaves Andy's torso exposed, which Seal's like, haha, you fool. Your core, so to speak, your heart, your brain, whatever, is right there and vulnerable. But Andy is like, you're an idiot. If that looked like my main body, then you're just another slave to the rule of common sense. You ain't no different from any other UMA. And he goes to strike, but unfortunately, does not work because Seal
because he erased Slash.
Slice. Slash is different. He can still slash. He can't slice. Yeah, Seal has used the power of Jewel to become as hard as Diamond, so can't do anything about that. And Andy's like, well, I'll just do a water jet cutter of blood, and I'll pierce right through you. But that doesn't work because Seal has activated the power of Splash, so it basically kind of creates a force field that can deflect the water pressure line instead. So Andy's kind of like, all right, since I can't crack you and blood attacks won't work, how about I just strangle you? But Seal is more bothered by what Andy said, and he's like, take back what you said. I am the UMA graced by the favor of God. I am Seal. I am the rule appointed by God to seal you, and through my powers, and like cracks their neck all the way around, says, I will become the king of UMAs.
You don't want those teeth next to your groin.
No, not at all. Seal says bomb, and Andy explodes. and Andy has the best follow-up to this where he says, this friggin' sucks. And Seal has now discovered. He's like, oh, you're not regenerating as quickly. It seems damage to your brain does that. If so, I'm going to keep doing this. And just turns his leg into jewels and just keeps kicking Andy in the face over and over again.
It's time for someone to get their head kicked in.
Yeah. It's Daniel Bryan finishing a match, basically. Andy's like, shit, someone actually started doing this against me. And Lucy crawls on top of Andy and says, no, stop, you're going to kill him. And Andy's like, no, don't do it, you dummy. And then Seal wraps Lucy up and crunches her, basically. There's nothing left in the tube afterwards. It just says, now then, you're next, Undead.
And we can see that Lucy was a negator because a seal is forming on Seal. That's starting to say what her power was.
Yes. So. On he or something like that.
Yeah. So nice. I do like the way that like you see it starting to form in the final panel there. Yeah. So you don't get the full picture of what it is. It's an interesting thing to just introduce her, and it's like, oh, she's dead, Andy, but it's just like 3 chapters after her introduction. But that is how Undead Unluck do.
Well, it is also very possible that if Seal is killed, then the things that were sealed are unsealed. You know?
Certainly possible. I'm just saying that it's like, Undead Unluck does this where it's just like, oh, you think you need time in order to recover from all of the big twists? No, more,
No,
more. Here's more.
Keep going, faster. Yeah, I think it seems like it's an interesting little twist. I'm praying there's more because I think Lucy would be a very frustrating character if she did just exist to have a power, not get to use it, sealed, and then is killed off screen. Basically, is like a morality pet to Andy's trials and tribulations. So I'm imagining that's probably not going to be the case.
It would be a very fridge incident. So, yes. Question.
Yes.
When is the worst thing also the best thing? Well, when it comes to Boruto, Naruto Next Generations, it is all the fucking time.
Let's talk about Boruto.
The worst chapter, which is also the best chapter. Honestly, it's so bad, but it's also probably the best Boruto has been in a few months. So bad.
I think. Yeah, question mark?
All right. Chapter number 68, Ska. Featuring
I thought it
Boruto.
Was ska for a moment, and I was like, that's pretty. Dude, Boruto just comes in skanking. Boruto, where'd you get those sweet checkered pants? He just has a trumpet.
Boruto looking like he's gonna drop the hardest album of 1985. Like, Jesus Christ. Put a shirt on, kid.
It is weird that like so many of these so many of the times it's like, what if my 12-year-old was like an adult fashion model? I'm like, what an odd stylistic choice. These kids are so dorky. It's so weird to try to take them seriously in a pose like this.
All right. So, everyone, did you all read the last chapter of Boruto where they explained how Boruto was resurrected? No. Let's spend the first several pages explaining what happened again.
Well, Nick, this is a monthly series. You know, you can't always expect the audience to be able to follow what happens chapter to chapter. So we should spend the first 6-7 pages of this chapter just kind of reiterating things, figure things out.
And Boruto says that, hey, all that stuff that we were doing in order to take precautions against this power, don't need them now. It's solved. And also, I have better control over the power. Isn't this nice? It's honestly pluses all around.
Yeah.
We cut to Kawaki in bed, and Sumire is looking after him. And also, Naruto is there, and Shikamaru, and Ibiki. Hi, Ibiki. Okay, you're here too. Sure, why not? Shikamaru. Okay, so remember how Shikamaru was like, "Hey, hey, Naruto, we should kill Kawaki," like last chapter. So Ibiki's like, "Okay, so let me get this straight. We're not gonna like restrain him or anything, considering, you know, all the power that he has and how he did, you know, kill Boruto." And Shikamaru's like, well, yeah, but we can't even restrain him even if we wanted to. He could just shrink himself with Sukuna Hikona and get free. And he can absorb any sealing jutsu using karma. So, you know, it'd be hard to do that, so we're just not going to. But Shikamaru's like, yeah, but it's fine as long as, you know, Naruto is safe, because that's all he cares about right now.
Yes.
And Shikamaru's like, yeah, so what we'll do is we'll trust him and make sure he stays on our side. Naruto's like, yes. It's good that you agree with me now.
That is how this village has functioned since the leader of it was essentially in the exact same situation, and my entire arc was having the people accept me for who I am and not what.
Oh, is that why you were upset about that? Oh,
I thought it was just because the other day at dinner, when I ordered appetizers, but I asked them to be split, even though I ate most of them, and I thought you would just be bitchy about that still. Jesus.
Look, I mean, you guys could have had the oysters if you wanted them, but like,
Yeah.
you know, You should have just
You waited too long. What am I supposed to sit here, eat half of them, and then just let the other half sit there and get cold? No.
We were having a conversation, our families have known each other for like decades now. It's not often though because we're so busy that we get to socialize and catch those. Yeah, but time's a waste and those oysters aren't getting any fresher.
You want to know what's distinct about oysters? How they get bad really quickly. They're not known for being a hardy thing that sits outside of its ideal temperature condition for too long.
I thought it was that they were an aphrodisiac.
All right.
Why do you know that? All right, Mr. Smarty Pants.
Yeah, suddenly I'm going to know about nuclear fission, too. Kurama's like, wow, about that.
Oh, God. So Sumire goes to ask Shikamaru, like, what the fuck is going on with everyone? Why is everyone so tense and weird right now? It sort of seems like the Hokage is brooding over something, which honestly, with Naruto, is pretty obvious because he's Naruto. So, but Shikamaru's like, oh yeah, well, he nearly died. That's all. He's tired. And then Sasuke shows up. Hey, Sasuke's here.
Huzzah!
He has information. Boro's got a facility somewhere. I'm just okay. So anyway, Coach shows back up his hideout, and what's his name? Grem, piece of shit kid. So Damon. So,
yeah. Don't forget memories. It's all about programming. Bullshit.
Right. So Ada's like, hey, Code, if you're lucky that Boruto's still alive. He was revived using Momoshiki's chakra. And Code's like, wait, what? Yes, let us go over this information fucking again. Because Code doesn't know all of it. Could literally have had her start to say this and cut away to do other things and just had it explained off panel. But no, we have to explain this again. All right.
Everyone needs to reiterate where they are at every point.
Yes. How are we supposed to understand that the characters understand what's going on if they don't constantly talk about it? So Ada's also upset at Code. Because, he dragged Damon through a portal without her permission to, put her sibling in danger. And Code's just like, I didn't know what else to do. And Ada's like, listen.
He was like, yeah, I like his point. He's just like, I kind of was going to die otherwise.
Yeah,
in which both of our plans kind of fall to ruins at that point. So kind of works out.
Listen, Code.
Isn't your brother entirely defined, by the way, of being unable to be hurt?
Code. Enough about that shit. Bring that hottie Kawaki over here right now.
He's like, I didn't have time.
Bring him to me.
Aside from when I went over and checked his pulse, in which case I could have easily made a claw mark on the ground and teleported his back. You know what? It didn't work back then. This guy tired, he was gassed.
Listen, if you don't bring me that hottie, I'm going to kill you. And Code's like, I thought we were friends. No. You weren't here.
You're just magically infatuated with me. Or dumb enough to be normally infatuated with me. It's one of the two. I can't tell.
Listen, bring that kid with his sweet multicolor sideburns over here. So Code's like, okay, but check out the incredibly large and obvious strap that I put all across the back of Shikamaru's entire neck. That you can see he just peeped out his collar.
And I have an ear sticking out of it. The idea that, it really is a moment where you're like, does Code think he's smart? I know we find out at the end of the chapter why he thinks he's smart, but this is such, the stupidest genesis of this, back and forth, gambit plan of just, he'll never notice a gigantic strap across his back.
Oh my God, it's so, you'd get an itch back there and be like, oh, it's like, wait, there's like spiked leather back here. Come on.
That's so much of it.
So yeah, he decides to spy on what Shikamaru is doing. So he just cups his ear so he could put his ear through the strap dimension and listen in on whatever Shikamaru is doing, which is going to confront Amato, who is smoking indoors like a jackass. Don't do that. Follow the building's codes. Come on, man. Shikamaru's like, hey, why'd you put Karma and Kawaki again? And then we go over to Boruto, who is talking with his squad, and they're like, yeah, I was revived. Was Shiki? For the fucking third time in this chapter. Oh, God.
Nick, we have to explain it. And every character who is involved needs to explain it to a different group of characters.
Mitsuki immediately asks, like, wait, why did Ko try to kill you if he wants to feed you alive to revive the Ten Tails? And Vart's like, I can't tell anyone that Kawaki was actually the one who killed me because Shikamaru told me not to. Which makes perfect sense, honestly, because you don't want, people to freak out that Kawaki's going to go berserk unless it's need-to-know basis.
It's also a member of his team. Like, they don't want a member of their team to be like, you killed our dude. You can't do that.
Out of all the stupid things in this chapter, this one makes perfect sense. And when it came up, I was like, fair enough. That is fine. And that is a perfectly reasonable thing to have. Is like, oh, the secret in the group that is going to come out later and cause problems. It makes sense. Sasuke shows up and he's like, hey, so Code could show up anywhere, so don't go anywhere alone. Make sure that one sensory ninja is following you wherever you go. But he also is like, hey, Ko's gonna like do something to get his limiters removed. He will do something. So it's important that not just Boruto is, kept under guard. We should also keep an eye on Old Man Amato. Yeah. And Shikamaru is like, so why did you restore Kawaki's karma? He didn't give you permission to do it. Kawaki's like, I mean, I was just gonna do it because I figured he would ask for it anyway, and didn't want it to come up at the wrong time. It makes sense. Like, it's a very logical argument, but Shikamaru's like, there's another reason. Don't dodge the question, which is like, I don't know. It seems like he's answering the question, but don't dodge the question. If you ask me, you seem obsessed with Kawaki's karma itself. I mean, he's a dedicated scientist who specializes in it, but okay, sure. So then Code comes out of Shikamaru's neck. What?
It's the best moment. Because he's hovering in the air like a fucking vampire. And he's like, sorry to interrupt, but I didn't want to waste this opportunity. And for a brief moment, you're under the impression everyone in this room is surprised this happened, as this fucking dorky kid just floats in the air like, sorry to butt in.
Oh,
like, his hair is rising up for some reason.
I hate to be a pain in the neck, but
I wish he needed to have said something like that. He needed to just be so extra in this scene. Like, this is the only moment where I was like, yes, now his outfit makes 100% sense, because it's so ludicrous and over the top that there is nothing this man should do that should not be this over the top and extravagant.
Oh man, Amato, I never would have gotten here without a bunch of help. Thanks for sticking your neck out for me, Shikamaru. Didn't think I'd see you in this neck of the woods. Please stop. Please just try and do your stupid plan, please. Shikamaru gets slashed rather by Code, I guess, and goes, "Gat!" And then Code grabs Amato from around the neck, and he's like, "Remove the lunars on my power." And Amato's like, "Oh, I can't believe you just showed up here. You're gonna be sensed right away." But Code says, "Yeah, but I know that all you need to do is look in my eyes and say the command. It only takes seconds, right?" And I was like, "God, how would he know?" Because he was told.
Yeah.
Ino and other sensory ninjas are like, wait a minute, oh man, code is in Amato's lab. And they contact Shikamaru. And Shikamaru's like, yeah, he's right here. And Ino's like, damn it, we'll send reinforcements. And Shikamaru's like, no, hold on, Ino. Just inform Naruto and the others. Don't send anyone here yet. I don't want to provoke him into running off, so let me handle it. And Ino's like, what the fuck are you doing? You have not discussed this with anyone? Shikamaru uses shadow possession jutsu. Ha! He paralyzes Code by connecting their shadows. And Code's like, I can still move my fingertips enough to slash his carotid open. Which, all right, I guess there's a big ol' asterisk on how the shadow possession thing works.
I was going to say, wouldn't shadow possession stop you from even moving your fingertips, really? Like, I guess you could do it very slightly, and Code is super strong, so even the slightest tingle of his finger could be enough to rip open the throat of a human being. But I was like, that doesn't feel like that should be how it works.
Yeah. I know that there's been exceptions to it, like if you're caught by, you can still talk, but it does seem like a very convenient thing to just be like, well, I can still cut his throat open. So I've got a bulletproof vest on. And then Shikamaru says, you thought I wouldn't notice the claw mark on the back of my neck? I would fall for such a transparent trap. And Code just looks at...
Wait, what?
What?
You saw through my brilliant plan? I was so subtle. I thought you would think it was your giant neck strap.
So suddenly he notices the very obvious casket-shaped container over in the corner as it starts to go. And Shikamaru calls out,
"This is the dumbest plan, by the way.
It's showtime! Wake up, Bronco!" Which I don't. All right, I don't know why he's called that, but so the casket thing bursts open, the lid flies off, and oh my god, Delta is reborn, and she's floating in the air. The second person to burst out of something unexpected and float in the air within like 5 pages. And Shikamaru says she's a new model, reprogrammed to be a battle asset that protects Konoha. We've turned her to the side of good with programming her consciousness.
The moral implications of this are not delved into. This feels like this should have been like all the 7 different pages devoted to re-explaining Boruto's fucking karma, whatever we worked, should have been devoted to like really digging into the weeds and the idea of like, yeah, so we picked her up and reprogrammed her, so she'll always protect us now. Also, we changed her name. We took our very identity away from her.
We got the idea from, using blood magic on the Diamond King. It seems like a good idea.
This is the noble thing to do. If someone threatens our kingdom, we take them down, brainwash them, and now they protect our kingdom. Like what heroes would do.
It's okay, though. Delta still has remnants of her personality because she obeys Shikamaru's command, but she's just like, oh my god, shut the fuck up.
That's my favorite part. They reprogrammed her, but not enough that she doesn't still have sass to her. They're like, listen. All right, what do we change? Like her name, number 1, that Delta, awful. We're gonna give her a cool name like Bronco. 2, she doesn't want to destroy Konoha anymore. She wants to protect Konoha forever. And that's it, I guess. That's the only things we'll change, just those. And they're like, so there's a module right here. The sass levels are really high. With a click of a button, I could turn it down. He's like, no, Bronco and protect Konoha forever. That's all we needed.
Yep.
It's like the screaming robots in the Star Wars shows. Where just like, why did they? If you could program these things, why did you program them to be cowardly and fear their own death?
Please don't. Okay, so Delta launches a kick and grows out karma stuff from her leg and freaking impales Code through the chest. which I guess was perfectly placed so that it didn't actually hurt Amato at all. He's fine. He gets free. And Shikamaru's like, yeah, I figured if I just came after Amato with no guards around, you'd come through my neck like an idiot. So I gotcha, bitch. And then Delta's like, I mean, I could also blow you up with my eye beams, but I'm not going to because I.
I don't know those moments of like a character having to explain what the thing that would have happened isn't happening. Just like, I could have one hit killed you, but I couldn't. Just roll with it.
Code, who is under the paralysis jutsu, moves his hand.
He's not anymore. He was kicked out of it.
Sure, that's how it works, I guess.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. Sure.
All right. So, his hand moves over towards one of his claw marks and just reaches into it, and Shikamaru takes forever to react to this. He's like, oh man, his hand went in the claw mark. I better use the shadow manipulation and pull his hand down so he can't escape. You know, he'll just like, I guess, drag his body through the claw mark. I don't know. But Code wasn't trying to escape. Instead, he pulls Ada through the claw mark and she appears, and Amato is shocked to see her. And yep, here she is.
You all know what's funny is next month we are going to have to address that Shikamaru is going to be head over heels for this girl because they've established the rules that work for Ada is she just magically makes people infatuated with her, except for karma people and except for her relatives, which the Amato setup has come to reveal. So presumably Shikamaru, and I don't know, maybe Delta, I don't know if they really established how that works, and also I don't know if cyborgs are a different function to it, but Ada herself I think is also maybe a cyborg. I'm not sure. I am curious, like, the idea that, like, next week Shikamaru might have to just be, like, a dumb dude, just like, hi, ma'am.
God, he's really gross about it, too.
This chapter was such a wild ride. It's like,
oh, God.
It's, in a way, I appreciate it, because the last, like, 8 pages of this chapter are so wild where it's like, Delta's back and she's been reprogrammed, and you're like, what? And it's like, yeah, that was Shikamaru's plan all along, but he also told nobody to show up because he was like, well, this one counterattack will definitely work, so don't bother sending anyone else, just let them observe, basically.
You know, it's not like we could have had any other ninja like waiting in the wings to help out too.
Yeah, wouldn't work.
All right, Kaiju number 8, chapter 58. Hoshina has just gotten finished at the big council of seated officers telling everyone that they need to pool their efforts in order to actually combat the forces that Kaiju number 9 seems to be gathering at this time. They go over the possibility that maybe Kaiju number 10 is lying or is mistaken about Kaiju number 9's ability to create new super powerful Kaiju, but Hoshida has a PowerPoint to explain that. And he says, yeah, in recent years, there have been studies that give credibility to the theory that the immense energy and strain produced by faults in the earth act upon underground substances and nearby plants and animals to produce kaiju. And number 9 appears to be intentionally taking advantage of this phenomenon to create kaiju. And apparently he's in like the Mariana Trench or something like that in order to do this. So, good. That'll be fine. And also think about the point, like, okay, if we're like searching the deepest depths of the ocean for Kaiju number 9, it would take us years just to find them, as opposed to even forming an effort to take them down.
And Pacific Rim.
Yes. But it's okay. They can just synchronize to each other's biorhythms when that happens. So,
man, that is a telltale sign of a movie that the first one you're like, oh, this is excellent. Like, this is dumb in every good way. This is fantastic. And then the second one you're like, oh no, this one's dumb in every bad way. Like, this is like you did everything wrong the second time around.
Poor John Boyega.
There goes Charlie Day's star-making role.
I haven't seen either of them, so I didn't know he was in that.
Yeah, he was the bad guy in 2, I think. He gets like possessed by the monsters, and I think they make him the bad guy. Yeah.
Okay, crazy. So then Mina says there is a chance that by assimilating the Director General, Kaiju Number 9 has learned about the Defense Force's capabilities as well. So they're double fucked. They can't do anything against this guy, and also he knows all their secrets. It knows all their secrets. So Hoshina says, what we have to do now is see how many surprise factors we can implement in the next few months before Number 9 makes its next set of moves. We have to have things outside of what the Director General is aware of working in our favor, which means we need to make a lot of call-ups for NXT really quickly and really push them on the main roster. So
that's how we get. What is it, Pudge or Butch or something like that?
Butch.
Pudge.
And as he appeared on SmackDown, the entire island nation of the United Kingdom's hearts collectively broke. So we do a big thing where we cut around to a bunch of all the young officers, I believe most of which we have been introduced to, but some I think not. So
I think only two do we know, right? Haru and Reno?
I think that we also met a couple of them very briefly.
I feel like the guy on the same page as, I don't even remember if his name's Haru or something similar. The guy with like the sharp teeth and like the pompadour, and then Reno, we know. Like I think that guy maybe we've seen, but I feel like the other three I don't know.
I think so. So, yeah. And also, Mina brings up that they are also preparing to use the long dormant ultimate weapon. We need to train a compatible user for weapon number 6, which everyone is very much aware is the most dangerous of all of the kaiju-built weapons. So they're like, oh, so we plan on pitting the former king of kaiju against the newly crowned one. All right. Thank you for the lore, Dumb. Thank you. It's nice to have those little flavor details. Thanks. And they say, because Hoshina has this on his PowerPoint as well, at the moment, we have a cell sample from a certain rookie that shows signs of properly syncing with number 6. No neutralization university schooling, average entrance exam scores, a completely run-of-the-mill officer. His name is, and we see Iharu running away from a kaiju in the street and ducking before the kaiju gets blown up by a series of blasts, and a figure comes streaking down from the sky in a huge heroic silhouette and then lands in front of Iharu, and it's Reno. And Reno Ichikawa is said young talent who's been making rapid strides.
Okay, it is Iharu. Okay, I wasn't wrong. Yeah, this is super cool. I was like really excited to get to see Reno again, and like, cool, he's gonna be a very significant character in all this. We're gonna see like this is what the compatible user is. Because at first I was just like, oh, it must like it was introduced in the chapter where Hoshina was going to bond with Ten. I was like, did that just happen? Like, so now to see like, oh, this is what they mean by compatible user, and it'd be a chance to show not only Reno but also these other characters. I think is like a pretty cool thing. Like, I kind of like Iharu. I don't know anything about him, but I have a little bit of like fondness for him, and he's not as annoying as oh god, I can't remember the name of the dude from
Narumi.
Narumi?
That's Narumi? That's the captain, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see it. I think it'll be kind of cool, and I'm pumped. I'm jazzed, as the kids say. They don't say it, but if you say they say it, then you control the narrative.
Yeah, don't do that. So don't hire Nazis.
But Nick, how else do I control my narrative?
Yeah, just don't hire Nazis. So yeah, I like this chapter, especially for what it promises, which is a return to all the characters that we got to know before this whole arc that introduced a bunch of unlikable ones. So, or unlikable / forgettable. Let me clarify.
I'll play devil's advocate, or maybe at least just soften what you say, because I know there are some people who actually do like Gen a lot. He is not our favorite character. We'll say that. So it's nice to return to the characters who were present when I feel, and I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I think both of us kind of felt Kaiju number 8 was at its strongest, and every chapter was a super exciting thing.
Yes, and things have had, but we're not down in general, but they were more hit and miss during that stretch when we were away from that group. So it's very exciting to be returning to them.
Yes.
In some form, at least.
All right. Let's talk about Eden Zero.
Yes, let us do that.
Chapter 184, Elsie versus Ziggy.
Yeah, it's a big Elsie dramatic chapter, which is why she's on the cover in her flower patterned lingerie. You know,
it lets
you know
swimsuit. I don't know. She looks like she's by a pool. Got to get it out there, you know.
Yeah, that's how you tell that something serious is going to happen to a character. What they're used for cheesecake.
So we just found out that Elsie is the princess of the former kingdom of Lendard. Her name, Elsie Lendard. And it's and it's a very fancy thing. And she, activates her ether gear, and she goes in. She fights, and there's, attacks and boom, smash. And I don't know why there's one panel where Ziggy splats her away, and she falls, and her expression is almost comedically huh? Like she just got knocked on her butt. And she's like, there's a bunch of small, it's kind of cool. Ziggy's picking up old pillars with his gravity and throwing it at her, and then she strikes, and it leaves a little bit of a mark and everything like that. And that's enough for the momentary pause in the fight for Ziggy to be like, to think the little girl would grow this strong. I'd expect nothing less than the Eration 6 Galactica. You are indeed the equal of Crow and Acnoelia. And, he asks about Shiki, and she's like, well, I haven't sparred with him a while, but back before this, he was pretty much at my level, so I would assume he's even stronger. And Ziggy's like, unfortunate. I should not have raised him, for he is the one who will destroy the universe.
I was idiot enough to raise a threat to the cosmoses.
That is what the translation version says.
I think that is, in a certain vernacular, grammatically correct. If you're speaking oldie times style, but it's still very weird. Yes. So
we cut over Shiki, Rebecca, and Happy run into a bunch of soldiers. Oh no, they blast their way through them because they're not actually that tough, but then there's more. Uh-oh, this is too bad. But, just when you're getting overwhelmed by zombies, the rest of your two teammates show up, and you got to make sure you take out the special ejected first and then clear out the waves.
Yeah, you got to have the right sense of priorities. I know that you're like, oh, man, their health is going down, but you really got to focus on actually clearing the way first.
Yeah, so. You got to make sure you're not just going to get overwhelmed, because once one person goes down, it just starts chaining. And then they get all inside a safe, I don't know, the door closes and they're safe now. They're like, cool, we're headed towards the core. Because Shiki says, what's this passage?
That easy.
What's this passage? And Pino says, evidence suggests that this passage will lead us to the planet's core. And I'm like, all right, good enough for me.
Also, they've all got their assault uniforms, and apparently the cleavage hole is just a default aspect for the girls. So,
well, yeah, Nick, come on, that's
if they drop a line at any point that Weiss designed these, then I'll at least say, okay, that makes sense then. So,
yeah. Until then, it's the one other thing that women need heart-shaped holes for their breasts to breathe out of. That's the scientific reasoning we're going out of in this universe.
Yep.
We got back to the fight with Ziggy and Elsie. Elsie's like, did you only save me because of your lack of memory? Ziggy's like, of course. The real me would have never rescued a human world. And she says, that is unfortunate, Ziggy. And she does her 7 stars Grand Chariot magic. No, but Ziggy escaped. He's like, yes, I have Nero's wormhole ability. I can move across space. And Elsie's like, I knew you would do that, and you would try to attack me from behind. And Ziggy's like, trap ether, which is, I guess, a thing. I don't know, but he's trapped. And then Elsie transforms. And the first time I saw this panel, because she does the thing that most magical transformations do, where for a brief moment they're nude. And I thought, if you look by her hip to the left of it, there's a line. I thought that line was her left leg and hip, and I was like, what the fuck happened to her?
Jesus Christ, Elsie.
It's not. I mean, it's still Hero, but regardless, so Elsie has activated her ether gear that lets her absorb sort of the essence, the very concept of a planet to channel it. And she says, "Taste the power of my planet." Hits him with total eclipse. Ziggy's like, "Ah!"
The heart.
We're you can't say it without thinking that. We're gonna get back to this, by the way. But Ziggy goes down. Elsie stands over top him, and she is in a position to kill him. She's about to strike him and presumably end this fight. But Ziggy says, "Elsie, run," which gives her a pause. He's like, "Take Shiki and his friends and go far away." And for a brief moment, Elsie thinks back to when Ziggy was essentially like a father figure towards her. And she says, "You." And then he fucking throws a sword through her chest because his hand's like this. So he didn't just stab her. He's like, eh.
I think that the idea might be he used his gravity magic on it.
Probably.
Sorry.
But it's so much funnier.
It's also the sword. It's also the sword that she was going to stab him with. So did she drop the sword?
I didn't pick up that detail before. Now it is very confusing. I guess he used gravity magic to spin it around and then plunge it into her. I don't know. I really like the idea he tossed the sword like, eh. And he just says,
he manages to at point blank range with no wind up. Fuck! Send it going at 50 miles an hour.
And he just finishes the chapter by saying, "That's what it is, Elsie."
Yeah, I don't really know what they're talking about in the last 2 lines of dialogue there. It's a little bit weird, but it sends fragments in Japanese that are being translated to English, so it makes sense why it's a little bit weird. I do wonder if the angle that they're going for is that Ziggy was literally just fucking with Elsie in this moment and pretended, or if there is actually some aspect of the good Ziggy that remains in him, and it's not exactly as he says, where he had lost his memories, and so this is his true self.
It is worth noting we don't see pupils in him before, and then we get to see like his kind of skeletal ones when he goes to do the stab. I do want to talk about this chapter because in a grand scheme, I like the concept of what's going on here. That Elsie has this connection towards this planet, and she channels the very essence of it. And then Ziggy turns around and stabs her, using her moment of humanity basically as his one opportunity, because otherwise it looked like she had him defeated. My issue is that I find that this moment lacks any punch to it, because I want to just address this. So last chapter, it was revealed that this is Elsie's home world. This is where she lived, and she indirectly is responsible for its destruction. She sold secrets, supposedly. She gave that information away. I shouldn't say sold. She gave information about the planet away, and that supposedly led to its downfall. And not only her family being, destroyed and her kingdom ruined, but the entire planet eventually being destroyed and taken over by another war complex, essentially. That was just told to us in basically like a page-long exposition dump. Elsie here uses her magic to channel the very essence of this planet. And there are so many complications that go with that, because this is Elsie channeling this planet that, one, is her home, so it should have a very important significance, but also one she betrayed. There should be very complicated feelings going on here, and we can tell that there is some level of that going on, but we didn't get, this is the point where instead of this chapter, we should have had a flashback or something like that. I know this isn't like other series where we were going to get a multi-chapter flashback or whatever, but we did need some kind of context to the notion that Elsie channels the very essence of her home world that is dead to basically almost kill Ziggy. Like her steeled determination at this point. She's made peace with who she was, clearly, but it would have been nice to see what kind of led to that, certainly. Another thing I want to point out, though, the concept of draining this planet to become it and encapsulating it, and it's expressed both, in a power set, which here I guess just means darkness. I don't really know what her attack actually is. It's a laser beam or something, I guess. But also aesthetically. Aesthetically, this outfit sucks. I don't understand. So we don't know a lot about Lelendard, I would assume, from Lendard, whatever. Maybe there's like a kind of pseudo French influence. It had kind of like a European medieval aesthetic to it. I'm not smart enough to know the exact agricultural kind of, or not agricultural, architectural, origins or whatever. But it was a planet like that was also then taken over by robots. And maybe you could even justify it by saying, like, well, the real Lendar, the aether she's absorbing, wouldn't be like that. Because I was like, I think it'd be kind of dope if there were, like, cool robotic influences to it to show that's what Lendar is. But remove that away. She does this transformation, and it's like, she's just holy. She just looks like fucking Holy. You just gave her those stupid head things that Holy has and the fucking neck thing like Holy has. That's it. You just turned her into Holy in a bikini. That's it.
She looks like a cross between a sexy devil and a superhero because of the weird gloves.
Mm-hmm.
It is very odd, and because this is all very rushed, it's all that is another reason I think that the big attack doesn't have much impact. You just see her as she transforms, then boom, and that's just it. That's just the attack. I'm gonna say something here.
Okay.
And I want everyone to boo me for saying this. I think we needed to see more of Elsie in this series to appreciate this.
But that is actually a very true thing. Because the only reason why Elsie is considered an important character is because she is clearly Urza, who is important in Fairy Tail. That's the only reason. She actually hasn't done much in this series.
Imagine how much more impactful this would be if we had Elsie get the Urza treatment in Fairy Tail, where she, would always show up and just win.
Yeah.
And to then see her turn all the maximum amount of her potential power on the final villain, and then she just, in a hormonal weakness, gets cut down. How much more effective that would be. But Elsie, because she's constantly getting bussed in and out of the series to be important when she's here, but then just go away and never do anything, or to show up and be like, well, I'll stop you, Ziggy, but not now. All these motions towards, but she's important, guys, but then she very rarely has involvement in important aspects of the series because she's always taking down side villains or whatever. And she's got this quote unquote close friendship with Shiki's crew now, but we haven't really seen it develop very much because a lot of it's been off screen.
But Nick, she sometimes shows up in bath chapters or something like that.
Yes, but so does Labilia. So does Holy. So does every, traditionally attractive female character in this series. So I honestly do think if you had just gone all the way and just been Elsie is Urza. She gets the Urza treatment and shows up a whole bunch, way too much. Then this would actually have been a more effective moment. But because it's just a character who just kind of shows up occasionally, and really has never really gotten to do anything important except that one time she kissed Justice and then they kicked each other in the nards, or whatever, or whatever they did after they kissed. I can't even remember because that was such a stupid moment. It really feels like she has not actually been built up as a very powerful combatant somehow. So
no, I understand that. I do agree 100%. I wanted to kind of this moment because I think it actually is good in a general sense, but this felt very much like I was reading a wiki of what a moment would be and not actually experiencing it. I feel like the details were just given to me and that was it.
I could definitely see someone who was a fan of this series explaining it and making it sound more exciting than it actually was. Yeah, definitely. All right, but we got to move on from there to Akane-banashi, Story 6, Senior Pupils. So Akane has just been introduced.
Señor Pūpils.
Señor Pūpils. So
I am here to teach you the Rakugo.
My name is Pūpils.
It sounds enough like poop that I can do this.
Oh, God. So, Master Arakawa has just introduced Akane to his 4 older pupils and says, they're going to drill the base of Rakugo into you. And the long-haired hottie one and the bookish glasses-wearing one are both like, I'd rather not. No, got other shit to do. And Akane turns to Master Shigema and says, "Did you not ask them both ahead of time before doing this?" Then Shigema gets really upset because he's like, "It's your duty to look after the new pupils since you're the senior pupils." And Koguma, who is the glasses wearing one, is like, I mean, but come on, like, it's been like 6 or 7 years since the last one you took on, so yeah, I can't do it. No, I'm not going to deal with that again. No. And the long-haired one, whose name is Maikeru, says, "This is me we're talking about, Master. She's obviously going to fall in love with me, and that love is forbidden by the rules." I love him immediately. Like, he's so awful.
Yeah. That's the guy I picked last time. Thank you very much, Nick. You get your own. You picked, I don't know, fucking spiky hair dude.
I picked Guriko because I think that he's a good guy deep down. And you know what? He prepared those peaches for everyone. Yeah. So, you know.
I picked the one who's going to have a fun time. So.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I did basically pick the male lead from I Tell C, I guess. So
he wishes he was as fun as Seikon.
Oh. Everyone starts making eyes at Guriko to kind of pressure him into taking charge of Akane, but instead, the close-shaven head guy Kyoji steps up and is like, "Yeah, I'll take charge." And Shigema's really pleased to see this, and he says, like, "Hey, Guriko, I understand you're concerned for her too, but you've only just reached Futatsume rank. You should focus on improving your craft." So, nice little bit of info there to build up that relationship. So Kyoji takes Akane away to talk with her in private for a bit. They sit down and she introduces herself very politely. And he's like, "Oh, that's a very polite and proper bow." And he goes on to explain the importance of a good bow when introducing yourself to the audience, how important it is to be a rakugoka. And Akane's like, "Oh, wow. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, this guy's actually going to be really nice. This is going to be a good teacher-student relationship." And so Kyoji then goes on and say, "All right, so what's your school schedule like?" And Kane's like, "Oh, I can just ditch classes whenever." And he's like, "You fool! You think your parents did all they could to put you through school so you could ditch? No!" And he's just bellowing in her face, saying, "Don't get your priorities backwards." And the guy's like, "Okay, good." And just immediately back to dice after that has been addressed. So that's no good. But we actually get a little bit of info from the other apprentices that Kyoji has actually been like this ever since Shinto was expelled, because he's always the one keeping the other pupils in line. They call him the magistrate of the Shigema school. And I don't really like that detail. He's not just the strict one. It's because he has a tie to Akane's father that informs that relationship. And it also is going to presumably inform the relationship he has with her specifically, because of the way that affected him. Very good. Nice little detail to set stuff up later. Love the series. So he starts getting some stuff ready so that she can accompany him to show tomorrow. And Akane suddenly is getting worried because of the way he's just flipped back and forth in his demeanor. And when he brings her to the show, he says, "Okay, I'm going to teach you a lot of things that you're going to end up learning during Zenza training." And he goes over a bunch of different points. And he tells her to also use the opportunity to learn. And Akane's like, "Yeah, I've got to reach Shinichi, and I've got to catch up to that guy," referring to the apprentice she met before. So they start, and at first she's enthusiastically, following directions. "Okay, line up your shoes, perform greetings, prepare tea, assist with the rows." But as he goes on, she's getting less and less enthusiastic. And then eventually, while she's folding up some clothing, she's like, "Wait a minute, you're just making me do chores," and just throws it on the ground like a football. And Kyoji's like, "Yeah, I am. Because when you're new at school, that's your job. You do the chores and other tasks like you've just done today. It may not seem like this has to do anything to do with Rakugo, but you have to understand that Rakugo is a business. It's about pleasing the audience. And if you can't please a single person in your presence, You're not cut out for that. You have to think about what the other person might want and do it ahead of time. We call this in Rakugo kibataraki, the mindset of taking tactful action. So I appreciate that we kind of hit the Karate Kid lesson in like 2 pages, just went through it really quickly, and it's like, no, he's not even making any illusions about what he's having her do. But he's like, this is why.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's a good teaching method too. Yes, he's working her hard, but he's explaining why he's doing everything. So then another Rakugoka shows up named Hakushu. Akane is, however, getting really pissed off because she's like, this doesn't have anything to do with Rakugo. It's just like that guy said. It's all about skill, and I'm going to prove it to all these people. Hakushu, when he encounters Akane, is curious and asks her to perform a story as well, which upsets Kyoji a bit, but Hakushu's like, oh, come on, it's fine. You're already here. You're going to be joining. You might as well do it. Show us what you've got. And so Akane, of course, is eager to do this. She goes, puts her kimono on, ties her hair up, and she goes to do a performance. And she's like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys what I can do. And I'm not as nervous as I was the first time, and I can see the room better. And Kyoji, of course, is watching her closely. And as Akane starts, Kyoji's like, okay, yeah, she's good. She's got good form. Her acting is expressive. Her posture is beautiful, and that's very important to Rakugo. If you're wobbling when you're sitting there, then it really takes away from your presence. So she's put a lot of effort into her craft, and then we see that Akane hits a punchline in her story, and she just gets a few like scattered chuckles, which takes her off of her guard. And she's like, what the hell? What happened? I got a way better response the last time I performed. What's going on here? So she's just like, all right, well, I'll just keep on going. I'm going to put what I learned into practice, and everyone will love it. It'll be fine. But Kyoji, as he's watching her, is thinking, I get what you mean now. I get what you meant about it, which is, I've given Akane performance training, if nothing else. So we cut ahead to after that point. They're walking home from the performance, and Kyoji is inquisitive and says, why are you unhappy with your performance? And Akane says, well, I wasn't unhappy. I was actually really thankful to be given that opportunity. And Mr. Hakushu was nice, and the audience was great. It felt good to be complimented, but it felt like I didn't get a big reaction that I wanted to get. And so I realize now that I'm still not that good, and I need to practice harder and get better. And Kyoji says, do you think that as long as you practice harder that you'll satisfy your audience? That's pure arrogance. Your Rakugo is the epitome of selfishness. And Akane is like, what you talking about? Kyoji says...
She just starts throwing in TV catchphrases everywhere.
Who is the boss?
Bang, zoom, straight to the moon. What... Yeah, tell me what you're talking about. Did I do that? Ricky! It's like, that's not my game.
But Kyoji says, well, a lot of your audience today was elderly. Did you alter your performance in any way to get a better reaction from them? And Akane is like,
yeah, you gotta insult Gen Z a little bit. You gotta make jokes about trophies and things like that.
You should have taken out your phone and pretend to be distracted by it. Yeah. Come on. And Kyoji makes a comparison to, it looked like you were hurling 95-mile-per-hour fastballs off the plate.
He's like, did you even make one Humphrey Bogart reference? You fool.
Oh, boy.
The Marx Brothers didn't come up once.
He didn't make any mention of the talkies that we're playing recently.
Someone brought up a good point to, like, they call it the talkies, and eventually that just became the movies, and suddenly you look at the term movies a lot differently now.
Yeah. It's like, it does sound really old-timey, doesn't it?
Could go all over to the movies.
Yeah. But his point is, like, you had a lot of skill, but you didn't have any control or direction. So it doesn't matter how skillfully you delivered the line, the audience wasn't going to find it funny. So I acknowledge that you have skill, but Rakugo is a business about pleasing the audience. You shouldn't look within yourself. You should be looking outward. And while he says this, he punches some stuff into his phone, which I do appreciate is a much older model of phone than Akane's is. A nice little detail. And he basically sends her a location and says, go there tomorrow. While you're there, see if you can figure out how you can perform Rakugo that will make your audience happy. And Akane agrees, and she's been sent to a little restaurant or bar. And when she shows up there, she's like in the uniform. She's like, why am I learning at a pub? Wait, is he trying to get rid of me? And she's immediately like, oh no. But one of the other workers calls out to her and says, hey, come on, stop standing around. And Akane realizes like, okay, but this guy will tell me what I need to know. And I know that the experience I gain here will be meaningful. So, okay, how do I learn to do Rakugo that will delight my audience? I'm going to find the answer. And she ties a bandana around her head and she goes off to start her work.
Good stuff. I like the chapter a lot.
This is a great chapter for a multitude of reasons. Kyoji hits a lot of points really quickly in very easy to understand ways that make sense, and it's refreshing to see them hit in this way. And also, every protagonist should have to work freaking service at some point to teach them the value of respecting people. So,
which is ironic because the one lesson you will learn in any kind of service industry is how much you hate people deep down. Like, it's just an innate thing you will discover the moment you have to work any kind of level of customer service.
You will hate everyone except other service people. Yeah. You're like, I got you.
You deserve the world. And then someone will come up, they're like, what's the price of this? And I'm like, I hope you die in an accident today. $7. The first part you don't say out loud because that usually costs you the sale.
Right. Or, you have to answer a bad Yelp review or something like that and be like, I am sorry that all right.
Blue box. We do it alphabetically.
Oh, blue box is alphabetical in front of. You're right.
Well, this week it was called Bada Bada.
So right.
You had it right.
Chapter number 45 of Blue Box, August 26.
Which is weird. Came out on like the 20th of August or of the March, so doesn't line up at all. This series probably should be canceled.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the timeline, of course, is a bit accelerated with Blue Box. It does feel like at times for a series with this kind of setup. But so we established that like, all right, nationals are over, summer vacation is almost over, and so students feel rushed to get their remaining summer homework done. And it's August 26th. But instead of showing any of that stuff, hey, Chinatsu's basketball team is throwing her a birthday party. Isn't that nice? And they set up like, little noisemakers and streamers. They give her a hat and a fake nose and glasses to take goofy selfies.
I like it because it implies that there's more of a personality to these characters than we see. Like, it's like the idea of like, oh, I like being silly. I'm like, I would have never presumed, based off the way you've acted previously, that you're one of those people who's like, silly eyeglass and nose combo. I'm dead.
Oh my God.
Novelty t-shirts. Fuck yeah.
As the badminton team passes by them, they just say, girls sure love that sort of stuff. So, all right, if you say so. So the friend, whose name I keep on forgetting, says...
I never remember this dude's name. No. He is physically a dude who is there.
He's there. He's like, sounds like it's her birthday. I know! I know! Where are you going to get her? I don't know.
I fucked up.
They run into Hime after establishing also that, Chinatsu is like depressed because, she let her team down and they lost the nationals. And so he's like, I don't know if it feels right to celebrate. And then he just points over and they're all celebrating. Like, all right, shut up. Hime comes by and smacks oh God, I've forgotten his name. Damn it. What's his name? Main character dude.
Oh, Taiki. Sorry.
Taiki. Smacks Taiki in the head with the ball and comes by and is like, sorry. And they're like, you did that on purpose. Yeah, probably.
Like, yeah, because I fucking rule.
Yeah, because I think you're cute.
Yeah.
That's how I express affection.
This is how boys do it, apparently.
So Taiki pulls Hina off to have a private conversation. And Hina immediately is like, you better not do anything weird to me. And Taiki's like, what the fuck? Come on. And I do like that there is a small, because Blue Box does this all the time, where there's like, you know, just a little sub thing where it's like, it's almost they've muttered the line. But she's like, I was just trying to lighten the mood because you're all tense and stuff. It's like, yeah. So Taiki says, hey, you know, like I like Chinatsu Senpai, and I'm gonna really try and make that work with her. So is that okay with you? And he is like, I mean, I'm very much aware of the situation we're in. Yes, I'm cool with it. I knew that when I confessed to you. So yeah, stop being all awkward and weird, okay?
Yeah, stop being such a weirdo, please.
Glass's friend, who is there, overhears the conversation, of course, because he has no respect for privacy, and is like, so she told him how she feels. Yep, that's what they did.
There is a moment where I wondered if that was supposed to be a clue that he might have feelings for Hina.
Maybe.
And I mean, it would make sense for them to eventually add another element into this love triangle. So,
yeah, he likes Taiki.
Hey, this could be a series where everyone's just into Taiki for some reason.
Yeah, that
Except
very boring
Batman.
boy.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be with me except the one person that I want. The basketball team is practicing. They establish that because the coach is putting a lot of pressure on Chinatsu, that, there's going to be pressure on her because the senpais are all going to be graduating soon. She's going to basically be the vice captain. And yeah, sure enough, she gets pulled aside and they're like, yeah, she's going to essentially be the captain next semester too, because she is the best player of the team. All the younger players look up to her as well. Her friend Nagisa, I think is her name, is like,
Yes.
Hey, you're not really like usually comfortable with being a leader. Are you going to be cool with that responsibility? And Chinatsu says, well, I may not look it, but I was my class's representative last year. And Nagisa's like, yeah, because you lost the game of rock, paper, scissors.
This is the moment that I like, sort of like how I got one over when Hina was said like that. She better have some messed up fetish or something like that. This was the moment where I think I may have turned a little bit on Chinatsu, because I really do like the idea where she's just like, I was valedictorian. Like, you didn't want to.
You wanted to do it.
You lost the game. You lost the contest, and you had to do it.
But Chinatsu is reassuring. She says, yeah, it is going to be a lot of pressure, but I love this team.
Yes.
And she smiles. But of course, as is per usual with her, keeping a lid on it. And her friend is not very convinced. We can see that she's still looking and focusing on her as they go through practice, even though Chinatsu's putting on a friendly, happy face. And Chinatsu stays after practice to practice shots by herself, because she fucking missed the shot that knocked them out of nationals. She missed again. That's gotta just be torturous. Just, I've prepared for this moment so I won't fail again. I failed again in the exact same way. That sucks. Yeah. Eventually, like I think it's just another student comes by and says, yeah, I'm gonna lock up soon. So when she leaves, she gets phoned by her mother. And her mom is, of course, calling to wish her a happy birthday and stuff. But she notices, like, hey, you sound a little blue. But Chinatsu's like, oh yeah, well, the coach may be vice captain of the team, and I guess that since I was chosen for that position, I got to do a good job. And I mean, I already told you this, but when it really mattered, I missed the shot, even though I practiced so hard, I still missed. And I feel like I've still got a lot growing up to do, at least in basketball. So how will I even have the time to think about the team when I'm thinking about myself? Because I don't think I'm good enough. And her mom kind of like takes this approach of like, oh, is that all? I got this. I've been parenting too long for this to be a problem.
So I know what to do.
Yeah. She says, look, you just got to do your best and just worry about that after everything goes bad. Even then, it still won't be too late to improve, though. When the time comes, don't think you failed because of who you are. Think about how you can grow from your experiences. And going forward, just focus on who you can turn to when the going gets tough. Because it's really nice when someone relies on you.
It is.
So after that, China looks at her phone and she sends a little emoji to Taiki. It's the penguin guy that they agreed as their sign to each other that hasn't come up in a long time. So when it happened, I was like, oh, it's the thing.
Yeah.
And as it so happens, Taiki was headed into the same direction. And he's just like, I wasn't telling you, we just live in the same direction.
I do actually really like that she hears the sound like right behind her, like the bing, and she's like, what? He's like, I swear to God, I'm not following you.
But so it's awkward for a second because Taiki's like, I wasn't following her. I swear I wasn't. It's just that we live at the same house. But Chinatsu just looks very sadly, really, at him and says, I want to go somewhere, so do you mind if we take the train? And that is where the chapter ends. So, hey, it'll be nice to see Chinatsu and Taiki, like, actually grow closer again, because those have been some of the nicer moments in this series of seeing them actually, like, open up to each other and get to know each other, as opposed to him being like, I don't know what to give her for her birthday. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going. It's a cute little chapter. And I like Chinatsu a good bit more after the chapter as well.
She is more human. Yes. So.
All right, now let's talk about. Well, we had Boruto this week, so it can't be our favorite chapter this week. But
chapter 15 of Doron Dororon, Ichiha Kobayakawa. All right, so the director addresses two squads, one of which is
is the three characters we know, and then the other one is the three characters we don't know. And guess which one's going to get their shit pushed in this week?
Oh, but one of them's a fan of Dora, though. I don't want anything bad to happen to him.
Oh no!
One of them is 2 days. One of them's 2 days from retirement.
Really, that's really the energy this group gives off. Because like two of them look really like significantly older too. Yeah. So like it really does give off the vibe of like, this is the group, our most hardened and experienced warriors. And your wedding's on the weekend, right? And your daughter's birthday's coming up, right? Like, oh wow, you guys have so much to live for.
The guy with the Fu Manchu just looks sad about everything too. It's like, why do I have to do this? And then he smiles and it's like, what's wrong with this person? No, don't do that. I don't like this. And as it turns out, everyone's totally fine with a frickin' Mononoke going on this mission with them. None of them have any hangups about this at all whatsoever. They're just like, yeah, let's go do this. Boys club. Woo! And then we are introduced to the title character of the chapter. My name is Ichiha Kobayakawa, and you'll rescue me if I'm in danger, right? He
really sets himself up for everything. I have a zest for life that'll never be squelched, but if I'm ever in trouble, you better be the first one to come help me. Have I told you my fear is being eaten by spiders? It's a weird dream, I know. It'd be especially weird if it was like a sexy woman spider, but that's a complicated kink I don't need to tell you about. Just know if that's happening, I really need you to come save me.
And hey, I've got a special bond with you, Dora, because I tried to make friends with a Mononoke too. It tried to eat me, but I still think it would be cool. That's how people think when they're traumatized by these incidents, I guess.
I mean, I'd call it a traumatization, but it wasn't that bad. I only have a massive scar that's never healed from it. The likes of which I can't quite understand how I got. I guess the tiger bit into the top of my head, but didn't finish latching on. I don't really know. But regardless, let's be best friends forever. And I love that Dora, this is maybe the only time I like him, which is actually a moment that seems greatly out of character for him. He just says, whatever. Let's be friends. And I was like, this stupid loser's only defining relationship so far has been him being like, whatever, Kuronoski, whatever the fucking little Monomonoge is. He's like, let's go over and paint each other's fingernails and watch scary movies together because we're such best friends. So the idea of someone trying to express friendship to him and he's like, get away from me. I hate you. Whatever. We'll end this conversation.
Oh God. There's also like a weird picture. Hang on, let me zoom in on this. There's a weird moment when he's saying, "Oh, it's the captain." And he's just like, "What the fuck, friends? No, get away from him. They're supposed to like me and no one else." Because he's in the background while they're doing this. They're like, "I want to be friends with you guys." And Kusanagi's like, "Yay!" And Dora's like, "This is cringe." Yeah, so I don't have any hangups about being friends with the Mononoke. The last time I did it gave me a scar that I have to just, instinctively explain to people as soon as I introduce myself to them because it's so obvious. I've done it probably thousands of times, reliving that incident where I trusted a Mononoke and then it tried to kill me. Also, but you seem nice, Kusanagi.
Also, my career to this point has been killing Mononoke, so I really have a complicated relationship where I seem to be super excited about protecting them.
Every time he goes on a mission, he's like, "Will you be friends with me?" Gotta kill it.
It tricks him every time. The scar just gets a little bit bigger every time he has to kill one. They always get me in the same spot.
It's like graffiti artists who add on to each other's creations. They talk some more while they go out to the area, whatever. The squad separates so that the victims can, be victimized. The girl, Mononoke, shows up and just latches herself around the leader's neck, and I guess he takes him forever to realize this. And then he says, "What's up with this supernatural energy? In my 15 years as a samurai, I've never experienced anything so powerful. Then why did it take you so long to sense her?" Like, how does power sense work in this series? Is it a really obvious thing that presses down on you, or is it something that you could just not notice at all if you're not paying attention?
Sometimes it's hard to pick up on those things. You're like, "Oh man, it's really hot. Holy shit, my room's on fire," and you just didn't sense it until you're on fire. Like, holy shit. Maybe
the others try to attack her.
Mononoke energy can be picked up as sort of the animal you represent, and he was just like, "Damn, there's a powerful ass spider somewhere in this forest. Like, holy shit, this thing's ridiculous."
Wait a minute, spiders are small. That's a Mononoke. Oh, it's around my neck.
He's like, "Hey, there's something else back here too. There's a giant black strap with studs on it." I'm sorry.
Please let me finish this chapter. It's so bad.
I think this chapter could do with more riffs.
So the others try to attack her, and she's like, Spider Mononoke, use the web to stop you." And then, the lieutenant guy is like, "Oh, all right, I've got a sword," and tries to spin around and cut her after waiting there doing nothing for 5 seconds. So they're like, "All right, we've got to take this girl out. Oh man, there's webs everywhere. We'll never get out of here. But we can stop her. Oh wait, there's another Mononoke directly behind us that we also didn't sense, even though it's huge and also has massive power levels." Blah, 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 blah. They try and stab it. "Oh, it's so powerful. Oh no, the drunky one caught Izanagi guy and is gonna definitely eat him." And he's like, "Oh no, my attacks have no effect." Dora's there. He cuts through the web to get to them. Bah. Okay, so what did we think?
I thought this chapter could have used a few more bits, a couple more riffs. I think next week we start a riff count and we just try to see how many riffs we can go off of. We're talking about the chapter itself.
We'll start the show earlier next week.
But as for the chapter itself, was blindingly forgettable. It aggressively tropey. Where you're just like, "All right, I get it. These guys are gonna die. Fucking calm down."
Chris, I have a puzzle for you.
For me? I might have one for you.
Okay. This one's dense.
Okay.
So
Dense.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna send it over to you while I say it.
Okay.
Plovdiv Pummeler's Plightful Pedicle per Providence.
Holy shit. I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever heard the term plodviv. What the fuck is it?
Plovdiv.
Ploddiv.
I mean, if you look it up, you're gonna know it immediately. So
I've never heard of ploddiv.
okay.
Okay. It was ploddiv plunderer?
Plovdiv Pummeler.
Pummeler.
Plovdiv Pummeler's Plightful Pedicle per Providence.
Pedicle. I don't know if I know what
I know
pedicle is.
there's some $5 words in this one. Look, I'm running low on P. I didn't think this series would last this long. There's only so many P words you can form a sentence with.
Pedicle, is that like feet related?
Not strictly.
Okay. I mean, I feel like I did look up Protodiv and I picked it up off that. I'm assuming that's Rusev. Or
That is
Miro.
Miro. So Plovdiv Pummeler stand in for Bulgarian brute. Pedicle is a part of the body that like extends from one part to attach to another. It's his neck. Per Providence.
His whole thing with
from God.
So
he blames God for his bad neck. And that's where I came to the whole thing.
I was trying to do one for Miro, and
also
happy Rusev Day. all I got to was I needed 2 more words because I got to proudly pleases pretty partner because he just talks about fucking his wife.
I thought about that too. I was gonna use pliable partner because he talks about how she's flexible.
I have one. This one I don't know if this one's very good, but we're gonna try it. Popular pleaser.
You've had some gold.
Popular pleaser. Okay. Proudly. Purgers. Pulls and purloins.
Purgers. So like so as in PRJUR?
PERGURES. Purgers.
Is that Eddie Guerrero?
That's Eddie Guerrero.
Yes!
He lies, he cheats, he steals. The thing I wasn't, because pulls was the closest I get to cheats. Pulls a wool over your eyes or something like that.
Okay.
There really wasn't a good P for that, but I was like, I got purgers and purloins, and that's basically all I need, right?
I mean, I got it off of basically just perjure, so yeah, good stuff. Nice, like that one, and also we got them relatively quickly too.
I mean, I had to look up what the one word is, so I'm gonna give myself a half credit.
Plovdiv, I was desperately searching for I've got to do something to indicate he's Bulgarian or European or something. What's a P word? Oh, his hometown is Plovdiv. Okay. All right. PPPPPP, Chapter 25, My Fairy Lady. Reichiro, is that Reichiro?
Yeah,
I didn't read the. Has met up with Sorachika and just like, what do I do? Lucky told everyone our secret, and now Father's calling for me. What do I do? What do I say? But Sorachika gets a big speech bubble to say it'll be okay. So it's in the most reassuring tone, and it says, "Look, Lucky's not going to be banished immediately." Not until Mimin wins. And what if Mimin wins? Oh, then he'll be banished.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that'll be fine.
That's fine. Reichiro's like, oh, I'm going to go beat up Dad. And Sarachika's like, yeah, okay. Anyway, we can talk about Mom more openly now. I have one more thing to look forward to. So is this guy just like a little bit, smoking a little bit of because he's very chill. Like
he definitely is. He definitely has an interesting vibe to him.
Mimin walks past the two of them because, of course, she has just been in to speak with her father about this stuff, and she's leaving the mansion now. And she witnesses them while Reijiro is like shaking Sorashika by the collar and being like, "I'm gonna beat up Dad." And she's like, "Are you two dancing? Everyone gets to have fun but me." Yeah, sounds like her.
I love that energy where he's immediately like, or she's immediately like, "God, why does everyone get to do cool things besides me?" One of them's holding the other one by the shirt. Like she really she sees the world in her own way.
Yep. Sorachika curiously asks if Lucky was having fun at the competition as well, and Mimon says, "Yeah, he looked really happy." They clarify again that, okay, hey, finals on October 20th, nationals start November 29th, and Mimon's like, I'm not looking forward to this at all. It's more like, no matter what I do, it's just not fun. Well, it's fun, but I'm not happy, because my happiness lies in playing with the fairies. And we get a flashback to when she was a kid, playing with like a bunch of Casio keyboards and just being like, "Yay!" And she's singing "London Bridge is Falling Down, My Fair Lady." Some of her siblings come in. Reijiro says that, hey, father said that she's got to start playing on the piano, but of course, Mimi's just like, "This is fun, yay!" And Lucky says, "Yeah, but she's happy playing, and there's nothing wrong with that."
A good little egg.
Yeah. Mimin says to herself, whenever I would play the note, me, the fairies would come flying out. So cute, and they made me happy. They're so cute. And I was so happy to have met them that it brought tears to my eyes. And then her dad came along and was like, "Play on the piano. Be boring." And Mimin just recalls a bunch of different times when people told her, like, people kept telling me I couldn't do things. But I had my fairies, so I was happy. Also, she lumps in Lucky telling her not to jump off of the roof of the building with "play the piano instead of having fun." So, but Min says, "I love playing the piano. Sorry, the piano." "I'm so grateful for having met the fairies. But one day I had a cold and was playing the piano without thinking about anything. And a tree appeared. And everyone told me, as a guy who looked like Beethoven appeared, everyone said, that's so much better. It's better with the tree," her father says. "Playing that way is more appropriate. You'll receive more accolades. The fairies can be there, but if they don't have anything to do with the music, then you don't need them." And I hated it. So I played the fairy version at all the competitions. I was only one out of the Otagami sextuplets who didn't place first, so father hit me. I hated that. And her father was also like, "Kill the fairies. Stop playing to summon them. Kill them."
I like that it sounds like that's a joke, but he absolutely says you should kill those fairies. That's such a dark thing. Also, this is a weird question I have. How is it that they're sextuplets, yet they all get first in a competition? Like, I would assume maybe it was broken up by age bracket, but they're all the same age. So how do they all get in first?
Because Gakko no Otagami is just like, put my kid in this one, and now in this one, and now in this one, and now in this one. I'm Gakko no Otagami. You have to let me do this.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I'm like, God damn it, he's so good at the piano.
Yeah, he's so good at the piano. We've just got to give him our nation's secrets.
He wrote the opening to fucking Bruce Hornsby. That's just the way it is. What else can we do?
Okay. We're gonna get copyright struck.
I was too close.
And of course, Mimin was just like, "Oh, come on, this is so stupid. I don't care about these competitions. Why do I have to put up with all this? My fairies are number one to me." And she's thinking this like after her father has just slapped her. Like, that's not even her focus. It's just all the other stuff that's going on. But something else happened. Maloli was recording the whole thing on her phone. And she says, "Yeah, I'm going to upload this to the internet." But after that, she just immediately tossed over her phone and was just like, "Hey, you can delete it if you want, Mr. Braids dude." and use this as a distraction to take Mimin away. And Mimin was immediately drawn to her, saying, like, you look just like a fairy. And Maloli's like, I also get scolded because the way I play is different, but I love my ability, and I do what I can to make sure that I can play the piano freely. So you should listen to me play now. And she played for Mimin, and Mimin is like, it's so weird, and it's so much fun, and she's so free. And she didn't find out Maloli's name until 2 years later on the news, which they were at a place where like she was allowed to play the piano on a stage, so presumably Maloli was introduced, but Mimin presumably wasn't paying attention because she's Mimin. So, but she saw her on TV winning a competition, and she's like, "Oh wow, she won with that," and so Maloli was her idol, basically her motivation, and she's like, "I'm gonna make Father and those judges eat their words, and then I'll be free, and I'm going to do it by using my fairies to get first place." But then a year later, Maloli abandoned her weird playing style and just started playing conventionally. And Mimin doesn't understand it. She's like, I'll bet people aren't letting her play how she wants to now. Her freedom's been taken away, just like mine was. So this time, I'll protect you. I'll be your savior, fairy, and inspiration, Melolin. We're going to be free no matter what.
I love this chapter. I thought it was excellent. I love the explanation of Amin. I love really kind of seeing it. And there is something just so utterly tragic about her loving the piano, loving how she plays it. One day she just plays it slightly differently because she wasn't feeling 100%. And everyone's like, oh, that version's better. Just do it like that. And just seeing how like her love of this craft is destroyed. I definitely, I empathize with her a lot more. And I really came away just enjoying the series more. Also, with a certain other series going, it's nice to get some of that just powerful sapphic artist energy in this magazine again. So I'm all for it.
Okay.
All right, Nick.
Cream Puffs.
Yes, let's talk about Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Chapter 101, Mash Burn Dead, and the Dark Magma. So Doom is like, you made me use my magic. Brr. You can't possibly win. And Mash is like laying on the ground, and he's just kind of like, like he's just kind of like twitching. And he's like, oh, I got all sore muscles from taking off my wristlets. And Doom's like, what the fuck? And he looks at his weapon, and it's got cream all over it. He's like, why is there cream on Keldebolg? Does he always keep desserts tucked in his robe? And he looks, and he's like, there's a nick on my sword. He says it's a nick. There's a fucking chunk taken out of this thing. And he's like, wait a minute. Did he attempt to counter in that brief fraction of a second? He possesses the strength to break my blade, yet he hides desserts and makes ill-timed jokes. I don't get it.
What kind of series am I in?
Yeah, what is happening? He just says, I see. You're not using your full strength. You can't help but look down on your opponents. Mash is like, I would never be so rude. And he's like, this is far more interesting. I would like to rip those limiters off of you. But Innocent Zero interferes, is like, no, the Divine Visionaries are coming. We have to leave. But I shall drop him into magma infused with the power of darkness. Which is such a metal concept. And anything that is absorbed in it will be destroyed without a trace. And then I'll just reclaim his magic the old-fashioned way, basically. And Mash is just like, you're a horrible person. Doom just says, when we meet next, be sure you can use your full potential or you'll never defeat me. Mash like,
and Instance Zero's like, I'm dropping him into dark magma, which nothing can escape from.
Yeah. You don't think he's going to get out of it, right? Because dark magma is expensive. If I don't have to use it, I shouldn't be using it. That's just a waste of money.
I'm going to kill him right now. And then... No, I think I'm getting what kind of series I'm in now. So
no, I've figured it out now. I get it now. So Mash is stuck on this rock, and a piece of magma splashes next to him, and he just sees a gigantic crater left behind. He's like, oh boy, I gotta move somehow, but he can't. He's like, well, I guess that means it's dark magma time. Sometimes you just have to lie down and accept your fate. But
yes, the tenets of shonen: never give up.
Unless you're like, what are you gonna do?
I got a sprain. It hurts.
He can't get up, but then Domina lifts him up. We see that Domina's back is already burning because he's been hit by one of these splotches, and he says, "Father's already abandoned me. He won't care what I do now." But Mash is like, "What are you doing? You're getting sucked into the magma." And Domina thinks to himself, "I'm completely spent, but I can't let him die here. I must save him, even at the cost of my own life." And we can see magma is like sinking in Domina. Sorry, there's a character in another manga called Magma, and I'm getting confused. Domina.
And there's a character in this one that's like Magna.
Yeah.
So
Domina, we can see, is sinking into the magma as this is happening. He says, "Go, waters!" and shoots like a torrent of water that launches Mash up into the air, into the ceiling, and he bounces, kind of lands safely. And he just looks down, and he's like, "Domina." We see Domina think to himself, "Mash burned dead. I dirtied my hands with all the crimes at the behest of my father, and I was nothing more than a tool to him. Alone in the world, unloved by anyone, I was nothing. But worse, I was worse than nothing, but still, you took my hand. It was the first time I ever felt warmth from another, and I'm so glad you and I got to meet before the end. Goodbye, Mash burned dead." Domina sinks into the dark magma. And we just get a little narration that says, "Soon after, the divine visionary safely retrieved Mash, and so began what would be Mash's final fight." As Innocent Zero says, "Gather your remaining siblings."
Yep.
Very nice little end for Domina. Now, Nick, this is an important question. More impactful saving someone at the cost by going through magma. Domina here or the grandmother from Volcano?
So I've never seen that movie.
Oh, it's like the only scene from that movie I care about. Or it might be Dante's Peak. It's one of the two of them. It tears me apart. I can't remember. There were two Volcano movies at the same time, and I forget which one's which. The Dante's Peak one always. I think it's Dante's Peak now that I think about it. It always tears me up. The grandmother pushing a boat through lava. Oh man, so good.
Okay, so
Elusive Samurai, I guess.
Kusunoki 1335, chapter 55. So Kusunoki is teaching Tokiyuki some lessons and stuff. He's doing so by getting some food and just kind of like taking it from his family, I guess. And when she gets upset at him for grabbing the food, he's like, "I was hungry." And who is that boy? Run! They scatter off while his wife comes after him in like the most effective pursuing stance, which is legs going out everywhere. Yeah. So Tokiyuki says, "Why are you running from your wife?" And he says, "Well, she hasn't forgiven me for the chaos of the rebellion. The Kusunoki way is to flee first and butter up the wife later." No, don't do that. Do not do that. But he says, "You asked me before how the weak can defeat the strong, so why not try sparring with me? Do whatever you feel you need to do to win, and our exchange will be enough for me to offer advice. Or are you scared?" Tokiyuki's like, "I'm not scared." And he takes his sword stance with, the one hand in front of his face and the sword held outward. And Kusunoki immediately recognizes the stance and says, "Oh, who taught you that?" And Tokiyuki says, "My retainer who hides one eye." And Kusunoki says, "Well, he is a wise teacher. When I confronted Kamakura's staggering numbers, my soldiers were ragtag amateurs. I lacked swordsmanship instructors. So, how did I win? I'll show you." And he lunges forward to attack Tokiyuki, who of course does the step to the side counter, slashing at Kusunoki's wrist. And it looks like there is a splash of blood. No, he just held a rice ball in the way, and Tokiyuki's sword was easily deflected by it, which shocks him. And Kusunoki's like, yeah, I expected that technique from your stance. But the thing is that because it requires precision and minimal force, I just had to make sure you didn't hit my artery. So, yeah, even this rice ball was enough to do it. Tokiyuki's like, this is bullshit. You got rice all over my sword. But Kusunoki says, well, if you didn't see that coming, your escape skills need improvement. The idea of winning by the sword imprisons you. If victory must come at the edge of a blade, then only strong swordsmen would win. If it must come by bow, only strong archers will win. For the weak to defeat the strong, they must flee the cage of the fixed ideas that confine them. Even without skill with a sword, one may hollow out logs for collecting rainwater in a castle under siege. Flaming oil can be used to burn bridges. Even babies may hurl their feces. Ah, yes.
I like that
that
the
was
dude,
war tactic.
the dude was wide open mouthed as the baby threw the feces. Like it's going, it's landed like long end in, wide end in.
So Tokiyuki is like, oh, wow. Yeah, I never thought of it this way. But yeah, Kusunoki's like, the entire idea of common notions and traditions and aesthetics, these surround us in cages, which are hardy and strong. But when stabbed through the bars, there is no way to escape. The weak must fly their cages with pride, despite others branding them fearful and cowardly. And he tears off a chunk of his rice ball and tosses it up in the air, where a bird snatches it in midair and goes off to go and make a nest out of it, or eat it, or something. Kusunoki's like, birds are impressive for their freedom. They have the entire sky to escape to. We must free ourselves like them and soar along the path of escape. To flee is to live. That is my creed. And a frickin' orb of insightful light bursts in Tokiyuki's chest, and there's a big frickin' in kanji thing that says, to flee is to live, like it's his ultimate technique unlocking. Which, I mean, makes sense. It's kind of the ethos of the series, so I guess that makes sense. I was actually kind of thinking when this happens, where he tosses the rice up to the bird, I kind of wanted the bird to just suddenly go, and fall to his death. Tokiyuki is very, very thankful to Kusunoki for the advice. He's crying while grabbing his hand and stuff. It's, oh my god, it's so good. Kusunoki also takes him into his room and he says, oh yeah, I've got all these things in here that I'm always testing. But he pulls something out of this big mess in his room and he says, these are records that the Mikado requested I write. This was my rough draft. It contains complete information on the strategies I used in the recent fighting. And Tokiyuki looks at it and it's just like a middle schooler's scrawls on like everything in the world all on one page. And Kusunoki says, yeah, it's just a rough draft. You can take your time deciphering it. But that shouldn't be shown to anyone else because it is for the Mikado's eyes only. The tactics are for those skilled at running away and are prone to misuse by the unskilled. But we both love fleeing, so I trust you with it. So, isn't that nice? Tokiyuki leaves. They bow to each other as he makes his departure. And he says, I've had a lot of great experiences here in Kyo. Today was the high point among them. And while Tokiyuki goes off, Kusunoki thinks to himself, he's got purposeful eyes that reveal glimpses of antipathy toward the government. Surely he is not that boy. Kusunoki's son, Tamon Maru, approaches and says, oh yeah, you got a messenger from Takauji. He says it's about the banquet in 2 days. He says that he'll be arriving in the evening, and he's going to be coming straight here upon finishing his business. Tokiyuki wasn't out of earshot when this report was delivered, so he hears this along with all of his retainers, and they scuffle off into privacy, and Fubuki's like, we know when and where Takauji is going to pass. This is the perfect chance to kill him. If you would rule, you must seize this opportunity. So, a nice little chapter that ends on a tense note. Yep. Very suddenly. So,
good times. All right, Nick, let's wrap this up real quick with page 327 of Black Clover. And I say quick because this is only about 8 pages long, and it's mostly a fight. So Asta has achieved full devil union, and Lucifero is like, "What? He has no magic. Die!" and goes to punch him again. But Asta just kind of like tanks the hit and says, "It's a weird feeling. Before we felt like things overlapped, but now it's as if we've truly merged. And so it's not really about specific grudges now. All I know is I have to take you down." And he says, "I'm gonna beat you and live." And Lucifer's like, "Oh, he shuts off the magic of everything he touches? Don't be ridiculous." And, goes to punch him again. But Asta just, again, kind of no-sells it. And he says, "You've been the one who's been ridiculous all this time."
No, you're being a stupid.
He's like, "Look, yeah, I'm going to have to ask that you get in the pond if you are going to insist on being a silly goose." I like the idea of calling the bad guy ridiculous.
What?
You heard me. You're a silly goose right now. Asta swings his sword, cuts off Lucifero's other arms that were impaled inside of Yami and Nature Boy Flare,
Also
freeing them.
his horns.
Yeah, cutting off the top of his horns as well. And Nature Boy Flare thinks, "Oh, is this a true Devil's Union?" And Yami thinks, "I knew you were interesting, kid. Go get him, Asta." And we just get a narration that says, 5 seconds left until Devil Union comes undone. And Asta kicks Lucifero in the face.
A boot to the head, yes. Yeah, it's a very short chapter. I think we're just going to reserve judgment until we see the next one, honestly, because it feels like it's both the end of the last chapter and the beginning of the next one, but not its own chapter. It's weird. So, all right, we are going to wrap things up here then. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Weekly Manga Recap. What were the best chapters this week? Favorite chapter, MVP?
So my MVP was super easy. It was Mamin. I thought she had an absolutely killer chapter, and I loved every part of it about her. And then my chapter of the week, I'm going to give to Mashle, I believe, Magic and Muscles, as we had some very funny jokes. And even though I didn't really get a ton of time to dwell on it, I still have some complicated thoughts about everything that happened with Domina. It did get my emotions a little bit, so.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely echo your point on Mimin. It was nice to get that backstory for her, build her up as more sympathetic as we head into the big confrontation between her and Lucky, so that we've got, even greater stakes going into it. My chapter of the week is going to be Akane-banashi, because I thought it was a really effective and very well-paced chapter to get us to the next leg of Akane's journey, and I really appreciate the way that all this Rakugo stuff is being explained in a way that someone who is unfamiliar with it can understand it. It's like, here's what this is about. And I love that we are continuing to push the idea of these specializations and building up something that is a strength of Akane's at this point, even though she is basically an amateur. And of course, pushing the strong point of this new tutor of sorts that she has. So really, really enjoyed that chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. The audience agreed with you, by the way. Akane-banashi is the audience's pick, and then Mamin is the MVP pick of the week for the audience. So, good stuff all around.
Yes. All right. Well, everyone, we thank you for joining us here on the recording of the show on twitch.tv/RoloT. You can also check out all of our previous episodes on youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap, on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com if you're just feeling audio-y. And you can also listen to the podcast basically wherever podcasts are available to be listened to, including Spotify and iTunes. And we also want to thank the people who, help out with, like the visually presentation-y stuff on our YouTube, including Wesley Dale Cheddar and Mallow Jack Stutz, who create the opening sequence for Weekly Manga Recap, and Steve Man, who makes occasional title cards for the show. You can see his work wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet, including his Twitter, twitter.com/SteveManArt. If you want more Weekly Manga Recap content, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap, where we do monthly bonus episodes, and Chris does a monthly other recap, talking about a number of series that are in the same wheelhouse of the stuff that we already talk about, but that we don't have room for on the main show. I'm tired, so We also wanted to thank Ninja X3i for maintaining the Google Doc that keeps track of a whole bunch of stuff associated with the show. You can go to there and make a suggestion for a future manga for us to read. And you can also check out the discussion that is being had about the series that we are currently working on a recommendation for, D. Grayman, if you join the Weekly Manga Recap Discord, where also there's a conversation held regularly whenever the new chapters come out, and there are bi-weekly game nights amongst our community. And that's everything.
Yep. So. All right. That's going to do it, everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves, and the podcast is going to be over now. Can't stop us. I'm clicking the stop button. Boop. It's gone now. What you're listening to isn't happening.
That's right.
It's an illusion.
Or is it?